A family posed in 1902, but when the mother's face was enlarged, experts were left speechless. Vicef Martinez adjusted his magnifying glasses and carefully studied the sepia photograph resting on his desk. His antique photo restoration workshop, tucked inside Barcelona's Gothic quarter, had processed thousands of old images over the years. Still, there was something about this 1902 family portrait that immediately caught his trained eye. The photograph had arrived earlier that day with Maria Vidal, a middle-aged woman who had inherited a box of family photos from her great-grandmother. "My family has always kept these pictures safe," Maria told him. "This one is especially important because it shows my great-great-grandparents with their 3 children." According to the records, it was taken in 1902 at their home in Barcelona. Joseph examined the stiff, formal layout common for that time. A serious man, about 40 years old, wearing a dark suit and vest, stood behind an elegant woman seated on an upholstered chair. 3 young children, 2 girls and a boy, were positioned around their parents, holding the stiff poses required by long-exposure photography. The woman Maria identified as Esperanza Vidal wore a dark satin gown decorated with detailed lace and fine jewelry, indicating wealth and social comfort. Her hair followed the popular Gibson girl style of the era, and her hands rested gently in her lap, showing expensive rings that caught the studio light. What fascinated Joseph most was the remarkable clarity of the photograph for 1902. The photographer had achieved extraordinary sharpness, especially in the faces, a rare feat with the technology of that time. The details were so crisp that Joseph could see each pearl on the mother's necklace and the fine texture of lace on her dress. He decided this photograph deserved his most advanced restoration process. He planned to use high-resolution scanning and digital enhancement to remove damage and restore it to its original brilliance. Without realizing it, Joseph was about to uncover secrets that would completely change what the Vidal family had believed for over a century. Joseph began scanning the photo using his professional 9600 DPI scanner, designed for fragile historical prints. The digital image revealed extraordinary resolution, allowing any part to be enlarged without losing detail, exposing features hidden for 122 years. On his high-definition monitor, Joseph opened the restoration software he had refined over his 15-year career. He worked carefully, removing stains, humidity marks, fine cracks in the emulsion, and color fading typical of old photographs. While adjusting the contrast and clarity of the mother's face, Joseph noticed something unusual. At 400% magnification, he saw details invisible to the naked eye. Near the left ear, the hair texture looked slightly off, as if something underneath was being hidden. He applied specialized filters designed to reveal hidden layers of the image. What appeared shocked him. Beneath what he had thought was natural hair, the edge of a carefully fitted wig became clearly visible. The hair was not growing from the scalp but placed over an artificial base. Curious and uneasy, Joseph continued examining the image. At maximum magnification, he noticed makeup techniques far more advanced than anything common in 1902. Cosmetics of that era were simple, yet this face showed multiple layers of powders and creams applied with professional skill to change appearance. Even more surprising was what he discovered using digital spectral analysis. Behind the right ear, partially hidden by the wig and makeup, was a small floral tattoo. Near the left eye, under thick cosmetics, he spotted a distinct crescent-shaped scar. Joseph had restored many historic photographs, but he had never seen such clear proof that someone had intentionally disguised their identity. The woman in the photo was not simply posing, she was performing a carefully constructed role. One troubling question filled his mind. If this woman was not really Esperanza Vidal, then who was she, and why had she hidden her true identity? Joseph contacted Maria Vidal to share his preliminary findings, choosing his words carefully. "I've found some unusual details that may help us better understand your family's past," he said during their phone call. "Do you have any documents related to Esperanza Vidal?" Maria agreed to meet him at her apartment in Gracia, where she kept old family records. Her home was filled with antique furniture and framed photographs spanning more than a century of Vidal family history. "My great-grandmother always said Espera. NSA was an extraordinary woman, Maria explained as she opened a wooden box of documents. She was very educated and spoke several languages, which was rare for women at that time. My great-grandfather Ricardo adored her, but she died young from tuberculosis in 1905. Joseph examined the preserved records. The marriage certificate from 1898 showed Ricardo Vidal, a 38-year-old textile industrialist, marrying Esperanza Montoya, age 24, listed as having no profession and originally from Valencia. Yet her signature was elegant and refined, suggesting a level of education that did not match her official background. Even more revealing were letters Esperanza had written to Ricardo during their courtship. They were in perfect Spanish, but Joseph noticed patterns suggesting Spanish was not her first language. Some sentence structures closely matched French grammar translated into Spanish. Maria also showed him Esperanza's death certificate dated March 3, 1905, which listed pulmonary tuberculosis as the cause of death. Yet Joseph noticed there were no medical records or family accounts describing her illness. "Did your family keep any personal belongings of Esperanza?" he asked. Maria led him to a closet filled with inherited jewelry and keepsakes. Inside were a gold bracelet engraved with French poetry, handwritten notes, and most importantly, a small diary written entirely in French. Joseph asked permission to photograph several pages. Although his French was limited, he could tell the entries were not personal thoughts of a housewife. They contained detailed notes about industrial operations, troop movements, and sensitive information. It became clear that Esperanza Vidal had lived a life very different from what her family believed. Joseph sought expert help and contacted Dr. Elena Ruiz, a historian at the University of Barcelona who specialized in early 20th century Spain and international espionage. In her book-filled office, Dr. Ruiz examined the enlarged images. Joseph had prepared. She was immediately amazed. This level of disguise was extremely advanced for 1902 and required materials and knowledge unavailable to ordinary civilians. When Joseph showed her the tattoo and scar, she went silent, consulting reference books. Finally, she spoke seriously. "We should check intelligence archives. These marks may belong to a secret operative." Ruiz contacted colleagues in Paris with access to French intelligence records. While waiting, she explained the tense political climate between France and Spain from 1900 to 1905, especially regarding Morocco. Dr. Ruiz translated the French diary pages and grew visibly alarmed. "These are intelligence reports," she said. "They describe military production, troop movements, and industrial capabilities." One entry from April 1903 stated that Ricardo trusted her completely and that weapons factory information had been transmitted through secure channels. Dr. Ruiz explained that industrialists like Ricardo Vidal of 10 held government contracts, making them valuable intelligence targets. This seems to be one of the most sophisticated spy operations of the early 20th century, she said gravely. The woman was not Esperanza Vidal. She was a trained spy using a false identity. 3 weeks later, Dr. Ruiz received a response from the French National Archives. Dr. Pierre Dubois confirmed that the tattoo and scar matched records of a famous French operative named Celeste Moreau, codenamed Margaret, born in Marseille in 1874. She had been recruited at age 20 and trained in languages, disguise, and social manipulation. Her file listed the floral tattoo, crescent scar, and mastery of Spanish, Italian, and German, with specialization in high society, infiltration, and strategic marriages. Operation Iberia, conducted from 1898 to 1905, involved infiltrating Spanish industrial circles through marriage. Her false identity as Esperanza Montoya had been carefully created, complete with forged records and regional dialect training. Her fake death from tuberculosis allowed a secret extraction when suspicion arose. Joseph realized he had uncovered not just a photograph, but proof of a major espionage operation. Telling Maria the truth would be devastating. He arranged a meeting with Dr. Ruiz present to explain everything. When Maria saw the images and heard the explanation, her reaction was shock, followed by disbelief. "This can't be true," she whispered. "My family always said Esperanza was loving, faithful, and devoted to her children. She cannot be a French spy." Dr. Ruiz calmly explained that the most successful spies often live as loving wives and devoted mothers. Mrs. Vidal, the French records confirm that Celeste Moreau was extremely skilled at forming real emotional bonds while still completing her mission. She likely truly cared for her family even while serving her country. Maria asked to read the translated diary entries herself. As she read the cold descriptions of how Ansa had gathered information from Ricardo and reported private family details to her French superiors, the emotional weight became overwhelming. It was devastating. She knew everything about them, their private lives, secrets, plans, weaknesses, and sent it all to foreign enemies. Yet the documents also revealed deeply human moments. One diary entry from 1904 showed inner conflict. "The children have become very dear to me. Ricardo is a good man who does not deserve this betrayal. But my duty to France must come before personal feelings. I hope that when this mission ends, they may one day forgive what they will never understand." Joseph then showed Maria evidence that Moreau had quietly arranged financial protection for the family after her death. She had secretly transferred large sums into accounts Ricardo discovered, appearing to come from unknown investments Esperanza had made. She loved them in her own way. Dr. Ruiz said softly, "The best spies are those who remain human. Even their missions require betrayal." Moreau clearly struggled with the tension between duty and affection. Maria needed several weeks to fully absorb what she had learned. A family history preserved for more than a century had been completely rewritten by modern technology applied to a photograph kept innocently through generations. Moved by the emotional impact on Maria, Joseph decided to explore further the historical consequences of Celeste Moreau's espionage. Working closely with Dr. Ruiz, they began analyzing what information had been leaked and how it affected relations between France and Spain. The French archives detailed the intelligence Moreau sent between 1898 and 1905. This included precise specifications of new Mosa rifles produced under German license, exact locations of ammunition depots in Barcelona and Valencia, and most importantly, defensive plans for Spanish territories in Morocco. Dr. Ruiz explained the political situation at that time. France and Spain were fiercely competing for control and influence. In Morocco. The intelligence Moreau provided gave France a major advantage in both diplomatic negotiations and military planning. Joseph also discovered that Ricardo Vidal had been involved in more sensitive government contracts than the family had ever known. His textile business produced military uniforms and had expanded into munitions parts and communication equipment. This information would have been extremely valuable to French intelligence. One particularly revealing document showed how intelligence directly influenced the Treaty of Algeciras in 1906, where France gained significant concessions in Morocco. French negotiators knew the strengths and weaknesses of Spanish defenses, knowledge that could only have come from deep infiltration like Moreau's. Joseph then investigated whether Spanish intelligence had ever uncovered the operation. In the archives of the Spanish Ministry of War, he found records showing that in 1905, an investigation had begun into possible French espionage within industrial circles. Several individuals were listed as suspicious, including the wife of a Barcelona textile industrialist who showed unusual interest in military matters. The document strongly suggested that Esperanza Vidal herself had become a suspect. A report from March 1905, the same month as her death, mentioned plans to question her. The sudden tuberculosis death ended the investigation completely. Moreau's extraction was perfectly timed. Dr. Ruiz noted that the French removed her just as her cover was about to collapse. It was a flawless operation. Joseph now understood that the family portrait was not just proof of personal deception, but also a powerful historical record showing the complexity of international espionage during a critical moment in European history. The 1902 photograph captured Spain at a time when it was quietly being undermined by one of the era's most skilled spies. One troubling question remained: what happened to Ricardo Vidal's three children? After their mother's death, Joseph and Dr. Ruiz decided to examine how Morrow's actions affected the most innocent victims of the operation. Maria provided details about the children. Carmen was born in 1899 Diego in 1901 and Isabel in 1903. After Esperanza's death, they were raised by Ricardo with help from his sister. Records showed Ricardo never remarried and stayed loyal to his wife's memory. Joseph found school records showing all three children attended expensive private schools, which was unusual since the family was thought to have faced financial hardship after Esperanza's death. Tuition had been paid by an anonymous charitable foundation supporting orphans from prominent industrial families. Further investigation revealed the foundation had secretly been created by French intelligence as part of Morrow's extraction plan, ensuring the children's well-being and preventing suspicion about the circumstances of her death. School reports showed the children were exceptional students, especially in languages. Carmen became fluent in French. Diego excelled in mathematics and science, and Isabel thrived in literature and art. Teachers noted their unusual cultural maturity, as if they had received advanced education. Early in life, Maria shared letters written by the children as adults. In one letter from Carmen, dated 1925, she wrote, "Sometimes I feel Mama taught us things I never fully understood, as if she knew more about the world than an ordinary Spanish woman would." Diego later became an engineer with a strong interest in French military technology. Isabel moved to Paris in 1920 and worked for the French Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Supported by recommendations she could not explain, Dr. Ruiz suggested a troubling idea. It was possible Morrow had unconsciously been preparing her children for futures that benefited France. As a professional spy, she would have understood long-term influence. Joseph realized Morrow's operation had effects that lasted decades beyond her official mission, shaping not only Ricardo's life, but entire generations of the Vidal family who never knew the truth about the woman they called mother and grandmother. Understanding the wider importance of the discovery, Joseph decided to fully document the case and present it to historical institutions in both Spain and France. First, he gave Maria the choice of how the information should be shared publicly. Meeting in Maria's apartment, Joseph presented all the evidence, restored photographs, translated documents, intelligence files, and the full timeline of Morrow's operation. Other Vidal family members attended. Reactions were mixed. Some felt betrayed and wanted to keep everything private. Others believed the story was too important to hide. Maria's cousin Carlos offered a surprising view. "Maybe we should feel proud, even though she was a spy. Our great-great-grandmother lived a life of courage and adventure that few women of her time could imagine." Nay, Maria finally decided the story should be told in a way that respected both Morrow's complexity and Ricardo's suffering. "My great-great-grandfather was a good man used for political purposes beyond his understanding, but she was also human, torn between duty and emotion." Joseph and Dr. Ruiz prepared a detailed academic article, published in Spanish and French journals. The discovery quickly gained international attention. Espionage historians across Europe contacted Joseph for access to the images and records. The case showed how early 20th century intelligence work was far more advanced than previously believed. The French Minister of Culture released a statement officially acknowledging the operation, recognizing both its strategic importance and the moral cost to innocent family members. Joseph realized his restoration project had grown into something far larger. He had helped reveal hidden layers of European history and show how modern technology can uncover truths buried for generations. 1 year later, Joseph presented the case at the International Congress of Espionage History in Paris. His lecture, "When Technology Reveals History, the Case of the Forgotten Spy," became one of the most discussed talks at the event. While in Paris, Joseph was contacted by Marie-Claire Morrow, Celeste Morrow's 78-year-old great-niece. Her family had always known Celeste had done something important for France, but never knew the details. Seeing her photograph and learning the full story was deeply emotional. Marie-Claire shared letters Celeste had written after retiring in 1905, expressing guilt and sorrow. "I will never forget the family I had to leave behind. I served France, but I also betrayed good people who did not deserve it." Joseph arranged a meeting between Marie Claire and Maria Vidal. The two families, connected by secrecy for over a century, finally spoke openly. Marie Claire told Maria that Celeste genuinely loved her family and suffered deeply from her double life. Maria responded with unexpected compassion, "I cannot justify what she did, but I understand the conflict she lived with." Together, the families agreed to create a memorial honoring Ricardo Vidal as an innocent victim and recognizing Celeste as a woman who faced extraordinary circumstances at great moral cost. Joseph donated the restored photograph and documentation to the Barcelona History Museum, where a permanent exhibit was created titled Hidden Identities, Espionage, and Family in 1902 Spain. Visitors now see the original photo, digital enlargements, and historical context revealing the hidden truth. At the exhibition opening, Joseph reflected that history is rarely simple. People we think we know may have lived secret lives. Modern technology allows us to uncover these stories, but also forces us to face the moral complexity of the past. The Vidal family eventually found peace with their revised history. Celeste Moro was no longer seen as a villain, but as a complex figure shaped by a world where loyalty to nations often clashed with human bonds. Joseph continued restoring photographs with a new awareness. Every image might hold hidden truths beneath time and decay. The 1902 photograph became a reminder that history lies not only in official records, but also in the family photos we quietly preserve, waiting for the future to uncover the extraordinary stories hidden in the faces of our ancestors.